Folks, I don't need to tell you how good God of War Ragnarok looks. You've seen the trailers, you've seen the gameplay. What I'm here to tell you is how to truly appreciate Ragnarok's visuals in all its glorious and godly detail. The secret? Play in immersive mode. That's right, playing God of War without a HUD might seem a bit ridiculous, but Ragnarok, like 2018's God of War, was designed with immersive mode in mind, at least to some extent. It's more challenging, but if you're a glutton for punishment like yours truly, then it might just be the best way to play. So let's start at the beginning. You can turn on immersive mode from the HUD settings in the pause menu. There are actually a few options here: default, immersive, and hidden. Default gives you the standard HUD, immersive turns off the HUD, but with the swipe of a touchpad, critical information will populate the screen. Hidden removes the HUD altogether. If you're feeling really confident, you can hide the HUD entirely. However, in my experience, I preferred to have it easily accessible just in case I needed to check the compass. Occasionally, you may also want to check on a boss's health bar because some battles can be quite long. So what information are you missing out on by turning on immersive mode? Well, you can't see Kratos' health bar, enemy health bars, enemy levels, the enemy indicator, Kratos' rage meter, the compass, companion information including Atreus' arrow count, and text pop-ups. In theory, immersive mode removes all the extraneous HUD elements so you can focus on the oh-so-brutal action in front of you. Not seeing Kratos' health bar isn't as much of a problem as it may seem. When that red vignette starts to appear, your health is low. Either make some distance between you and your enemies, or look for some green crystals to heal up. If you've been keeping Kratos well equipped, you might be able to take a few lighter hits when that red vignette appears, but I wouldn't take too many chances. No enemy health bars are a little bit tougher to get used to though, especially when fighting tankier enemies. For most standard enemies, there aren't any tells that a foe is getting weak. This means you have to hack at them until the red finisher ring pops up or they just die. Speaking of finishers, you also can't see an enemy's stagger meter. This means that if you want to use a finisher, you need to focus your aggression on a specific enemy until you see that red ring. Just be ready to click the right stick when that red ring appears. Without the stagger meter, it can sometimes appear out of nowhere, especially for boss fights. The ring does linger for a bit. However, if you're too caught up in your axe swinging, you might kill the enemy too quickly. Thankfully, even in immersive mode, you can still see the attack rings tied to specific enemy moves. The red circle still means it's unblockable, yellow means you'll get staggered if you don't counter, and blue means you can shield break an enemy. Responding to these cues properly is crucial in immersive mode. This is the only non-diegetic information immersive mode gives you, so make sure to take advantage of these moments whenever possible. Now, one of the coolest things about immersive mode is that because you don't have an enemy indicator watching your back, you need to listen to your companions when enemies approach from behind. This happened in 2018 as well, but it's far more reliable in Ragnarok. Atreus or Mimir will accurately make callouts in basically every combat scenario. Behind you! It makes sense given that Mimir is basically the eyes in the back of Kratos' head, or butt, I guess. Even if immersive mode doesn't sound like your thing, I'd still recommend turning off the enemy indicator. Relying on your companions to have your back rather than a little arrow gives your friends more agency and makes the experience a little more authentic. Not being able to see Kratos' rage meter also makes immersive mode a tad more tricky. Once again, there's no visual indicator when Kratos' rage is full, so it's impossible to know when you should use it. I typically save rage for a tricky fight or a boss, and in my experience, this has worked pretty well. I'm definitely not as efficient with my rage as I would be if I played with the default HUD, but you can't have it all. As I mentioned before, the compass is the main reason why I don't recommend turning off the HUD altogether. While I wouldn't consider God of War Ragnarok an open world game, there are still a lot of open areas that you might get lost in. Being able to mark something on the map and swipe a touchpad to see the compass saves a ton of time. I guess if you really want to play with the HUD hidden, you could reference your map whenever you get lost, but continually flipping back and forth got pretty distracting for me, especially when I was just trying to knock out some simple side quests. Along Along with everything else, you will also lose your companion information in the bottom right corner. This tracks how many arrows Atreus can fire and the cooldown on his ability. Fortunately, I don't think you really need this information. If you press square and he doesn't fire off an arrow, then you just need to give him a few seconds. Typically, Atreus' ability takes a long time to recharge, so I just use that once per fight and leave it at that.
Its horns are glowing! Might be a weak point!
The biggest downside of Immersive Mode is that text pop-ups don't appear even if you swipe to reveal the HUD. This means that you probably won't know what Kratos picks up unless you check the menu. With hack, silver, and crafting components, this isn't as much of an issue. I just assume that it will help me craft whenever I return to Brock and Sindri. But it also means you won't get any details on the collectibles you pick up during your adventure. You can always check that stuff out in the menu, but I do wish I could at least know what some of the stuff I'm finding is called. Okay. So that's how you play God of War Ragnarok with Immersive Mode turned on. Let's talk about the why. Obviously, you can and should play Ragnarok any way you see fit. It is an excellent game no matter how you play it, and this time around there's a whole suite of accessibility options at your disposal. Go wild, especially in the early hours. However, Immersive Mode really stands out because it forces you to find a rhythm to combat on your own without a HUD to rely on. This means you'll have to pay attention to your surroundings, focus on the fantastic sound design, and work together with your companions to a higher degree. Sure, the game isn't perfect for completely HUD-less playthroughs, but it's pretty damn close. The world Sony Santa Monica has created is rich with detail and all too easy to get lost in. Playing with Immersive Mode just removes one more barrier from that experience. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do you plan on trying Immersive Mode, or will you stick to the default settings? For more on God of War Ragnarok, stay tuned to GameSpot.